In Photoshop, saving is such a critical component of your everyday workflow for photographers, designers, and artists. So I want to make sure you're doing it in the most efficient way possible. I'm going to cover the file extensions .png, .jpeg, and .psd. I'm going to talk about quality settings when you do save versus save as in JPEG. I'm also going to cover local versus cloud saving. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is open an image in Photoshop. And in previous videos, you've heard me say that going to File and Open, though convenient, is probably one of the worst ways to do it if you want to do it visually. And we're artists, so why wouldn't we? Go down to Browse and Bridge. It's going to open up a nicer window where you can scale up the image size of the thumbnails. You can click on any one you want. And when you're clicking on one, it loads over here in the preview panel. And you can actually click with the magnifying glass and it will launch a loop so that you can check the detail and the focus of an image before you open it. There's so many reasons why I love Bridge. I'll get into that in a different video. Right now, I'm just going to double click. It'll open the image. I'm going to click Fit Screen because I look down here and I see I'm only at 33% of its resolution. So let me maximize my real estate here and really fill my screen with my image, whatever size that is. So here's the thing about saving. You need to do it often and regularly. Right now, if I were to go to Image Adjustments and convert it to black and white, and this is actually a black and white conversion, not just automatic desaturate, which is very different. Let's say I want to make her dress. It looks a little gray. Let's make her dress a little bright. That's too bright. I blew out the highlight details. Somewhere in there. Maybe make the sky a little darker for added contrast. I click OK. And then I say, ooh, I love that. I want to save it. So I go back up to File, go down to Save, and well, I saw up here that it was saving, but it didn't ask me any questions. That's because it knew where to save it. And the bad thing is it just overwrote my file. So look at that. This was an original JPEG out of my camera. I don't get this back. Like, this is gone forever as soon as I close this file. I can never fix it or go back to my original. That's why it's so important that you come up with a workflow for your saving. Now, luckily in a previous video, I've already learned that I can hit Command or Control Z and it will undo the last thing I did, which luckily was just that one thing. So now I can go back up to File and Save, and I'll go back to Bridge. Okay, whew. That was really lucky. For a moment there, I thought I had lost my image, but I haven't. So let me go back to Photoshop. Now, let's say I want to do the same thing. Even though I know this is destructive, I know I just need to do a simple black and white conversion. I know exactly what I want. So I want to make that dress bright. I want to make that background darker. I'm going to click OK. But this time, I'm going to go to File and Save As. How do I want to save this? I'm going to come up by this .jpeg, and I'm going to click to the left of that dot. And I'm going to hit V2, which means version 2 for me. And the format automatically populated as JPEG because that's what was there before. There are no layers, so it can do it. And it's going to maintain that sRGB profile, which is great for the web. Because it's a new file to be saved, and I'm saving as JPEG, it's going to give me some options. Typically, just always keep it as a quality of 12 and click OK. All these other things are default, and they're the most optimal. Click OK. Go back to Bridge. Now I have a second version. As V2 has the same name except for that V2, so just keeping them in order so I can see them. Reopen this image. And then I was like, I want to do the opposite. I want to make that dress dark. Let's go ahead and pull it darker. And let's make the sky brighter for more contrast. I really like, that's a crazy look, but I like it. So I'll go up to File. Now, if I click Save, it's going to overwrite the original file again. So I've always got to go to Save As if I want to save a different version. Click to the left of the JPEG, hit V3, populate as JPEG, sRGB, click Save, click OK, go back to Bridge. Now I have a third file. So I have 3 files, my original, this one, and this one. Now let me show you something. If you want an editable working file, use adjustment layers. Now remember, all of these adjustments are destructive. It means once you do them, save your file and close it, it's locked in forever. It's baked in permanently. But you can get access to all these same things as forever editable adjustments, non-destructively, by coming over to this adjustment tab. If yours isn't open, just toggle it open. If you don't see it, go up to Window and just put a check mark beside it. So here I can just click on the black and white adjustment layer, and it's going to add a layer with the layer mask. So I get the same controls. I can still make that dress dark. I can still make the sky light. Now here's the interesting thing. Watch what happens when I go to save. It's right now a JPEG, and I'm not doing save as. I'm going to just save. Because it's never been saved as a Photoshop document, it's going to automatically pull up the Save As dialog box because it's never been saved. And it changed it from a JPEG to a .psd. which stands for Photoshop Document. That's the native file extension for Photoshop that has layers. Now remember, you can share JPEGs with anybody. You can share PNGs with anybody. But Photoshop Documents, .psd files, can only be shared with people that have Photoshop. The great thing about Photoshop is it doesn't compress your file, and it also maintains all editability on every layer that you save. So notice it changed the format automatically to Photoshop. I could change it back to JPEG, but it's going to flatten everything and I'm going to lose all the benefits. So let me interject. Photoshop has updated its save feature and how you can access saving as a JPEG. So I wanted to cover that real quick. So typically, like I've already saved this layered PSD file, but let's say I wanted to output this single file as a JPEG, and I go up to File. Well, see, I don't even get the chance to save it. I can only save as. So when I click Save As, look at my options. In this video, I tell you to toggle on this format, and it only gives me 3 options right here, which, this is for giant files. I think it's over 2 gigabytes, Photoshop PDF, and a TIFF. So the only way to even access, and obviously save to cloud, but the only way to even access saving it as a JPEG is you have to choose Save as Copy. So you click Save as Copy, it opens up the same dialog box, except it says Save as Copy at the top. Now when you go to the format, now you get the normal long list where you can select JPEG. Remember, if you're saving it for the web, you've always got to save it as sRGB or your colors will not look right in any of the social media platforms and any internet browser. So always shoot in the biggest color space, as always. Process in the biggest color space. But when you're outputting your images, make sure you embed the color profile of sRGB. But anyway, let me redo that because this is huge. When you go to File and you want to save an image and you come down, you won't see JPEG. You have to click Save a Copy, and that will repopulate the same dialog box, but it titles it Save a Copy. And now when you go to Format, you're able to click JPEG. And watch what happens. When I click Save, it's going to automatically save a copy of this, which means my PSD is still however it is, but this is going to give me a second new document in the location I decided as a JPEG. Generally, I always save at a maximum of 12. Remember, if you take it to a quality of 10, our eyeballs won't see the difference, but at a roughly, I can't even remember now, take your file size down by like half. So click OK, and that way it's just saved all this as a copy. Because remember, you can't have layers in a JPEG. That's why it's a copy, because it's basically flattening your image. So it auto checks layers, and I'm still going to leave the sRGB profile, and I'm going to click Save. Now here's the thing I want you to see. When I come back to Bridge and I check out my images, these two are the same. So I'm going to click and just drag it over so they're visually side by side. This one's the JPEG. Look how big it is. It's 3 megs. I could easily email this file. This is a small file. Look at the .psd, which is essentially the same file. It's 104 megabytes. Do you see the difference? Because Photoshop does not compress your files. You have much more editable information in there to work with. .psd is the perfect working file. JPEG is the perfect export file. Like you're exporting it, you're sharing it, putting it on the web, on social media, Instagram, whatever. So again, I wanted to show you quickly that if I were to come to File and Save As, I've been saving everything locally to my computer, but we now have a Save to Cloud Documents button, which means it's going to link to your Adobe account so that you can save to the cloud and share between multiple devices if you're working on your iPad or your computer, or a workstation at work and a workstation at home, or someone else's workstation. Basically, you'll be able to share that document everywhere. I have a whole separate video for that, but it's something I want to make sure you're thinking of. If you like this video, make sure you whack it, smack it, and crack-a-lack it.
Yes!
Hey, what are you still doing here? It's over. Actually, all kidding aside, I hope this video helped. And if it did, consider subscribing. I like subscribers.
That's awesome! What? You just took one in the jugular, man! Whoa! Yes! God. Oh my God, I did! This is...
Hey, you stayed to the end. You know what that means? You're awesome. I'm talking about you. Now get out of here.